It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline, brought to you by the Sunset Station with sports director Chuck Esposito. Presented by WagerTalk.com.
And here we go. It's the Monday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. We are back after a wild weekend. Basketball, hockey, baseball, and not your normal Kentucky Derby. Marco DAngelo is here. Chuck Esposito is on the phone with us. He is, of course, with Sunset Station Casinos, part of their great team. And, well, let's get right to it, guys. History made on Saturday at the Kentucky Derby. Maximum Security appears to have won the race, and then the objection sign goes up, and after a lengthy delay, the horse got disqualified. I'll very quickly get my take in. At first glance, I didn't see anything, but as they showed more and more angles, I did, and it appeared clear to me that the horse, and I know somebody's going to say, well, there's no lanes in horse racing. Yeah, they kind of are. You just can't see them, okay? It's not like a highway where the lanes are actually outlined. But in effect, what Maximum Security did was, if you were driving down the highway, at the turn, he basically crossed across 3 lanes. Okay, the fact that there was no accident is somewhat a miracle. And it could have been an absolute disaster. I thought the stewards got it right. They voted 3-0, by the way, and I thought the right decision got made. Chuck, what about you?
You know, I was on the fence, guys, to be honest with you. I watched it out in the book with the crowd, and, you know, watching it live, I didn't think that there was that much to it. I didn't think, even after I watched the first couple of replays, that there was that much to it.
Same here.
Just under the circumstances that, I mean, let the 3 of us run in mud like that and see how straight we run. The fact that it's a 20-horse field, not a 14-horse field like the Oaks had. There was no steward's inquiry, and I didn't think it impeded the horse that ultimately got put up as the winner. So I was really on the fence, even after watching it a bunch. But I've talked to so many people that really follow it more than I do, and they all felt like there clearly was a foul. So I guess I'm in the minority. I just thought, again, under those 3 circumstances, the conditions, the size of the track, the size of the field. And there was no steward's inquiry, that I thought it was a little bit harsh, but it's not for me to make that call, guys. Marco,
in viewing several replays, and I watched it again on Saturday night, long after the things had done, the jockey Tyler
Gaffalone,
he almost went down.
Oh, there's no question.
He almost went down. That could have been a disaster.
I was with a bunch of guys at South Point on Saturday, and I immediately said he's coming down. What was the problem with it is that he didn't directly interfere with the horse that won the race, as Chuck just said.
Right.
But the way the rules are stated, if you impede the progress of any horse in the race, you're put behind that horse. And this is why he was disqualified and not just put second and put all the way back to, I think, 17th.
Right.
He had to be put behind the worst finisher, which the worst finisher was the Long Range Toddy horse, which finished 17th, I believe. So he had to be put behind him. That's the way the rule runs. I don't know how they didn't go down. The War of Will was definitely going to be at least second in the race. He was making a bold move when he was coming through and literally had the legs taken out from under him. How that horse, the athletic ability of that horse to stay up was amazing.
And his rider, too.
Now, the only thing that I have a problem with is that the trainer of War of Will did not file the objection, okay? And there's kind of this unwritten rule in horse racing, and as an owner, I hate it. Jockeys will not file claim against another jockey unless they basically almost put them down or do put them down. And this is what you almost had here. The fact that he finished out of the money and it wasn't going to help War of Will anyway, the trainer actually said, hey, the other guy's my friend. It's not going to get me any money. Well, that doesn't do justice for people that bet the race. You got to do the right thing. The right call was made, and I love people on Twitter. They've been screaming about the Saints-Rams getting it wrong in the Super Bowl and everything else. They got it right here, and they're still complaining because some people had maximum security tickets.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I understand that part. And, Chuck, that there was, it's all pari-mutuel, so it doesn't particularly matter who wins. But I'm sure there were a lot of people at Sunset Station who weren't exactly thrilled with this result.
Yeah, I think when you talked about one of the favorites in the race, and we had our seminar the night before, and two of the handicappers had maximum security and gave him out. And you always want the guests, when it comes to racing, you want them to win. So we had a $20,000 twin Q that day. There was no winners. There was a nice carryover for going into yesterday, and there was a lot of winners. But yeah, there wasn't as many people or guests that had the other horse. So, I mean, I think from that regard, it was a little bit of a downer. But, hey, again, I'm in the minority a little bit, guys, and listening to what you said and talking to a bunch of other guys that really follow it, that they all felt like, he should have been taken down and Country House should have been the winner. And, it's over now. There's nothing more to discuss. He's not running in the Preakness. And, the horse is still really undefeated in the 5 races that he's been in. So he's, probably the most valuable he'll ever be is right now.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that the owners have decided not to race in the Preakness. What a draw it would be for as a horse owner and somebody that wants to see the sport thrive. Having that revenge match, so to speak, would have been so big for horse racing in the Preakness. But he figures, I got no shot at the Triple Crown. Why bring the horse back in 2 weeks? He's doing what's best for the horse. And also today he announced the owners of the horse are going to file an appeal against it. I can tell him, I've seen this happen a million times in horse racing. He will not win the appeal. It's not going to happen.
And it was a 3-0 vote.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a 2-1 vote.
He's not going to win. And I wish he was running in the Preakness again, because if he happened to win the Preakness, it really would be an interesting dynamic going into the Belmont, knowing that he was the first horse to finish in the Derby, and then he won the Preakness. He would technically be undefeated, really, without the DQ, and I still think that would have been good for horse racing. Now, if you're holding a ticket on will there be a Triple Crown winner, you have to think that it's highly unlikely that Country House wins the Triple Crown. Yeah,
this will be one time where the Derby winner, as it turns out, will not be the favorite, Marco, in the Preakness. I wouldn't think so.
The fact that Maximum Security's not there is going to help some, but he wouldn't have been the winner in the Derby if this doesn't happen, because either Maximum Security wins or Warwick will. Yeah, one of the two are going to win that race.
Right.
So it is an interesting dynamic. And yes, if Maximum Security would have raced in the Preakness and won, we could have had a Roger Maris situation and had a Triple Crown with an asterisk, so to speak, because he would have won all 3, technically.
Should point out, by the way, that it didn't matter as far as my horse was concerned. Although, I will tell you that I was fairly impressed with Game Winner, who just got out of the gate extremely slowly. He was next to last, way back. Ended up 5th. And I think Game Winner, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but if Game Winner's running in the Belmont, if he skips the Preakness and is running in the Belmont, I'll have my money on that horse.
He's a horse that, if I'm the owner, I wouldn't have been real thrilled with the ride I got from Rosario in that race. He had the horse, and in every race it happens. And unless Bob Baffert comes out and say the horse doesn't like to be in between horses, he gave up so much ground. Yeah. When he got bumped at the start, he should have went straight to the rail and tried to maneuver through the field from the rail, and he didn't. He gave the horse a 5-6 wide trip the entire race, all through the last turn, and you can't win a race that way. Especially in the mud like that. It was a horrible, ride, I thought. But yes, he did finish game winner. He was game in the race.
He was as good as any horse coming down the stretch. Improbable was the horse you liked, and what happened here?
He finished 5th. He had an opportunity. He had tight quarters, but he just didn't get. He wasn't firing. He wasn't the best horse that day. Maximum Security. I said going into the Derby, if Maximum Security proves that he is a horse, and I just didn't believe that, a horse, John Service is a great trainer. He put this horse in a 16 claimer in his first start. If I'm the owner, I got to go back and say, what was going on? Yeah, what was going on here? We could have lost this horse for $16,000. But he's a head case. He's hard to handle, and that's why he's on the front end all the time. He wants his own way. He's hard to rate. But he made a believer out of me on Saturday. And he was run at the whole way. He had honest fractions. It wasn't like the fractions he had at the Florida Derby.
All right, well, guys, let's turn to the human sports now and hit the NBA first. And Chuck, this Denver-Portland series is really looking like it's going to be a distance race, a marathon, and it's producing some really exciting basketball.
It absolutely is. I still go back to the game with the 4 overtime game, and that last 30 seconds of overtime 3. God, it just seemed like it really cost them the game, but it is. It's a really, really good series. You've got the 2 games tonight where both Milwaukee and Golden State can get out to a commanding 3-1 lead. They've been entertaining to some degree as well, but it's that series has been probably one of the most fun to watch so far, guys.
Hey, Chuck, on last night's game with Denver and Portland, I know I talked to a lot of guys, sharp guys, that they were on the under last night, figuring that after the 4 overtimes that they're going to walk the ball up the court, not try to extend a lot of energy. And I've always been of the other side of the coin. It takes more energy to play defense than it does to play offense. How was the betting on that with at your place?
No, you were right. I mean, we saw some under money come in on it. You still had some over money late in the day that showed up, but early on you did have some more under money, I would say, coming in, and it was from some more of the sophisticated side of the counter.
All right, now let's talk about Toronto and Philly, because the 76ers with brilliant performances in Game 2 and Game 3, but the Raptors showed a little character in getting the Game 4 win, and they've got the home court advantage back now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you looked at that series from the very beginning, and you could have made that case that with the Raptors, that they could be really competitive in that series, and could they win that series? And once they lost early, could they get a home court advantage back? And I think they did that. So that series to me has been really entertaining to watch, and so is the Portland-Denver series. The Bucks are just such a good team. I mean, they're. I know the Celtics are the Celtics, and going into the season, they got a little bit more hype. But this young Bucks team that a lot of people don't know a lot about is awfully good, guys. And
we're going to cover them in the 4 at 4 that's coming up shortly. Before we get to that, let's quickly talk about the NHL teams that aren't in action tonight. The Hurricanes, they're now the big buzz team. Are they the favorite now as far as the current odds are to win the Stanley Cup?
No, you still have to look at Boston, guys. I think when you look at the Eastern Conference, and I know we talked about it going into the playoffs, that I felt, not knowing, of course, that Tampa would get swept, that you could make a case that with the 4 lines that Boston could roll out, that they maybe were the right there, like 1 and 1A with Tampa. And I think the fact that they have a 3-2 lead in that series now, have an opportunity tonight to potentially wrap it up. I think Boston is the team to beat, and they're the favorite right now in the Eastern Conference.
And the Blues took a big step with a win at Dallas last night. Dallas had a chance to close it out. If the Stars are going to advance, they're going to have to do it with a win at St. Louis. That was a very impressive Blues performance last night. They looked like they're going to be really tough to beat last night. I mean, you're not going to play like that every game, but in an elimination game scenario on the road, boy, they really came up big.
Yeah, I mean, these two teams know each other. I mean, they're in the same division. They play each other a lot. I mean, we know what happened with Bishop with getting hit and the mask coming off, and usually it just wiggles and they're blowing the play dead.
But they got it right. The officials got it right because St. Louis still had control of the puck, and you can't.
No, I agree. Yeah. I agree.
Had the puck gotten out of the offensive zone, then no problem, blow the whistle. But that's the way it goes. That's you can't just stop the play. Otherwise, you'd have goalies embellishing all the time.
I'm really looking forward to Game 7 of that series because with Bishop and Bennington, I think you really, whatever goalie stands on their head in that game, although the game is in St. Louis, it wouldn't surprise me to see Dallas win that game. I think there's a lot more pressure on Bennington with what he's accomplished this year, and it's a Game 7. So it is a mighty big stage, and from just an experience perspective, and being the veteran goaltender, and arguably maybe the best goaltender in the playoffs right now in Bishop, it's going to be a really, really good game. That's what you love about hockey. I mean, you've got both number 8 seeds still alive in Colorado and Columbus, although they're both down 3-2. They're both at home, and both have an opportunity to force a Game 7, where I think the pressure would then go on Boston and San Jose.
And we're going to look at those games right now because we're going to cover tonight's basketball and NHL as we go to the MJ Christensen 4 at 4.
1,
2, 3 into the 4.
Put them fours up. Put the fours up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sports Lines 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3.